Dr. Homebrew is brought to you by 5 Star Chemicals, providing safety and cleaning supplies for brewing, distilling, and winemaking at 5starchemicals.com.
Doctor, look!
Stand aside, nurse. I'm Dr. Homebrew.
Stand clear.
All right, welcome everybody to another edition of Dr. Homebrew. How's everybody doing out there in beer radio land? My name is Jason J.P. Petros, and I am your host for this brand new show. Brand spanking new. Well, as of last month, I suppose. This is Dr. Homebrew, where we judge your beers live right in front of your faces, and you get to ask us questions about how to make it better. Now, of course, I don't know anything about beer. I barely even know what I'm doing right now. So I have my two very close personal friends, Brian Cooper and Lee Shepard, with me in the studio. How you guys doing?
Hey.
Good.
Excuse me. See, I already forgot to hit the cough button like a loser. So you guys are, forgive me because I'm pretty stupid and I never remember anything. BJCP national judges, correct?
Master.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, both of us.
See, I just insulted both of my guests, my
We're leaving
here. Master. What does that entail? A lot of beer.
And being good at taking exams.
Yeah, you have to write. You have to have pretty good handwriting, I suppose, right?
Well, you have to write a lot, and your hand has to endure.
I can never do that. I don't know how people can do that. Right? Out of high school, you're doing your finals, and you're writing, and you're writing. Like, oh, that's the worst pain ever because you're 17 or 18. And then you don't really write so much anymore. Well, all we do is type now as grown people in the world. And then you have to go back to writing again. Marathon writing for 10, 15 minutes at a time.
Yeah, this is the main actual handwriting I do. But just think how much easier all those high school exams would have been if you had a glass of beer in front of you.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Probably would have done better if I didn't have a glass of beer in front of me.
I had a friend who went to school in England, and he said it was actually still on the books, a rule that if a noble rolled up on a horse to an exam, they were obliged to provide him with a pint of ale.
Wow.
It was in the law.
Wow. That's a good law. We need a law like that. If someone walks in on 2 feet, we are all obliged to stop working and have a beer with that person. Anyway, this is Dr. Homebrew, and again, the purpose of the show, I like to call it an interactive BJCP score sheet, where you can come in, you give us your beer. If you're a local person, you can come in. If not, you can fly in, whatever you want to do. And we'll taste your beer. We score it right here, and then we go over it with you. We interview you, the home brewer, because really that's what people want to know also is how other people are homebrewing, what's going on out in the homebrewing world. So, and then we give you feedback. Well, mainly Brian and Lee do, and I just kind of sit and ask dumb questions. And then you get to ask the guys questions, too. What do you mean by this comment? How can I make this better? What about these hops? What about this? So you get a little feedback time, which I think is pretty important, especially for brewing beer. So tonight we're doing 2 beers. We have a Pilsner, and the other is a spiced American cream ale, which I've never really heard of before, but I'm kind of excited to try it. Seems pretty unique. So we're gonna be cramming those beers and talking to the brewers, and of course, none of this could be possible without our sponsor, brand new sponsor for us at the Brewing Network, 5 Star Chemical Supply. I love 5 Star. You guys use 5 Star, right? I mean, you're home brewers.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
All the time.
I don't know who doesn't use 5 Star. I actually use pretty much their whole lineup. I do the 5.2 to adjust my mash. I use PBW beforehand to make sure I don't have any contamination issues. I use Star Sand throughout the whole thing. And I'm just always blown away every time. Every time I leave my conical very dirty, I only do a hot water rinse because I'm a slob. And, right before I transfer in, I give it a good soak for 25, 30 minutes and PBW, and that thing is clean as a whistle, man.
I'm embarrassed how long it took me to discover PBW.
Really?
It was like, probably, a good year or so of brewing before I realized, I wasn't using soap or anything. I was just using hot water, and I just would, just clean everything right away and try to get everything right off of there. But it's so hard to get all that last residue off. And a little bit of that, and you just, super easy. Cool.
Yeah, it's very simple. I just shoot everything with water right after I'm done. After it's in the conical, clean everything with water, and then beforehand, when I start brewing, I'll make a batch of PBW and hot water in my boil kettle, hook up all my hosing, and just recirc that thing for 25, 30 minutes.
Yep.
And you'd be surprised. Well, maybe you probably wouldn't be surprised because you guys know what I'm talking about, but there's just the gunk that flies out of that thing sometimes is actually kind of disgusting. It's a good thing it's all hot. It's all pre-boil stuff. So anyway, 5 Star Chemicals. Go ahead and check them out if you haven't heard about them. They will definitely change the way that you brew. So we're up against a break here on Dr. Homebrew, and then when we come back, we're going to have Nick come in with his Pilsner, and we'll check it out. Hopefully we can give that guy a little help. This is Dr. Homebrew. Stick with us.
Do you know the 3 most important rules in brewing? Sanitation, sanitation, and sanitation. And no one does it better than 5 Star Chemicals. 5 Star knows sanitation. You can only sanitize clean equipment. And 5 Star knows how to clean, too. For craft brewers and home brewers, 5 Star has what you need to keep your fermenters, serving tanks, kegs, and draft lines sparkling and free of any beer-spoiling bacteria. PBW, caustic, acid cleaners, Star San, SaniClean, lubricants and defoamers, pH stabilizers, and more. 5 Star Chemicals has cleaning supplies, safety supplies, heat exchangers, pumps, hoses, and valves. And 5 Star is proud to offer eco-friendly products that exceed customer expectations. If you have a cleaning problem, you need the 5 Star solution. Visit 5starchemicals.com or call 800-782-7019. 800-782-7019 and get the 5 Star treatment today.
Dr. Homebrew, please report to the ER for code blue. Dr. Homebrew to the ER, please. No, and your tea time has been moved to 2:30.
Now back to Dr. Homebrew.
Looking around the studio, I have no room to put anything. I have 4 monitors, 3 keyboards, 2 soundboards, a call screen nonsense, and a laptop because I'm too dumb to email myself the things I need off of my laptop. Whatever. Pete Dink is in the studio with us.
Hello.
Good friend Peter Munoz. Right?
Yep.
Am I saying that right?
You're saying that pretty close.
All right. And he just gave me another thing to worry about, which is he doesn't like being called Pete.
Unless it's immediately followed by Dadink.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, got to keep them both.
So on top of the other things that are going on today, I got to remember Peter.
Thank you.
Good to have you, man.
Oh, thank you.
All right, with us are the brewers of this Pilsner that we had, Nick and Michael, right?
Yep.
How you guys doing?
Doing good.
You're running them, Mike. There you
Hi,
go.
guys.
How's it going?
Very well.
For some reason, I want to call you Ryan the whole time, Nick.
You can do that if you want to.
Can I?
Yeah.
It might be better for me if I can do that.
Knock yourself out.
'Cause I think you look like this guy that is on my Facebook feed all the time from Australia named Ryan, and he just looks exactly like you. And then I'm going, oh, yeah, it's Ryan. No, it's not, idiot. Anyway, so you guys came all the way from lovely Davis, California.
Davis and Folsom.
Davis and Folsom.
Yeah. Mike and I both went to UC Davis, so we stayed there, but we work over in the Folsom Rancho Cordova area. So Michael's actually over there in Folsom.
Oh, that's nice. It's not too far away. Right? A couple hours?
Greenbelt guys? Yep, I am. Right on.
Nice work. Greenbelt is a homebrew club?
Yep.
Oh, boy. So how long you guys been brewing?
About 3.5 years. We started in October of 2009.
October 9. Together at the same time? Or?
Yeah. It was kind of, we both finished grad school, started work about the same time, same place, and got into homebrewing. One of our coworker gave us a bunch of leftover equipment, so.
Oh, that's good.
Kicked it off.
Free stuff is always good stuff. And you guys do an extract or all grain?
We started out extract, did about 18 batches extract, and then switched over to all grain a couple years ago. So we've done about, I think we actually just hit our approximately 50th batch, so about a little over half that in all grain. The rest has been extract.
Cool. Sounds great. And so you guys have brewed this Pilsner, right? The Bohemian Pilsner?
Yep, Bohemian Pilsner.
Tell us a little bit about that.
So we started foraying into lagers. Last year we did a couple darker lagers, Vienna lager, a Schwarzbier, and something else. And they came out okay, but they weren't great. And this year we decided we'd try and foray into the light lagers. So we did a Bohemian Pilsner, and we followed it up with a classic American Pilsner. So We did this back in January, first lager of the year when it's cold. We often brew out of Brewing Classic style, so
Okay.
this was a Jamil recipe. Follow it to the T as much as we can. So
Yeah, attaboy. And if you don't have it, it's available in the Brewing Network store. Whatever. I just totally farted. I totally brain farted right now. What do you want to get out of this show? So you sent us the beer. Is it there's some flavors that you don't understand, or you just kind of want to?
yeah, I mean, we've always had pretty good success with our ales. I don't think we're amazing home brewers, but everyone seems to like our ales. We like our ales, but when we did our lagers last year, I definitely didn't understand how to do a diacetyl rest correctly. We learned, we did 3 kind of back to back, and I think by the third one we had started getting it right. But we definitely detected too much diacetyl. We did a Bach. That was the one I was forgetting. That was most people's favorite beer of ours, but it sucked ass.
Really? What was wrong with it?
It just had a ton of diacetyl in it. We tried doing the Croisny, and that cut down some of it, but at least to our palates, I was tasting just a ton of diacetyl, which, again, a lot of immature palates loved because it had that kind of, sweeter character to it and stuff like that.
Oh, it's so good, though.
Yeah, exactly. I think that was probably one of the favorites we've ever done, but it was our least favorite and took like a year to get rid of.
I love the way this tastes. Oh, you want some more? No, I don't.
So I figured, I did some more research about how to properly do a diacetyl rest since I thought that was our problem, and we decided we wanted to try doing the lighter lagers this year, so that's why we decided to do the Pilsners.
Mm-hmm.
And again, I think I did everything correctly in order to come out with a great beer. When we first smelled it and tried it, it seemed to be kind of, I thought what we were looking for, but then, it's been lagering, I think it's about 8 weeks now, and it's not exactly what I was looking for, and then I'm not an expert enough to the style to know exactly what I should be looking for, but I know it's not what I want, and so I want to know whether it's a style issue or if there's a process issue. And again, we brewed this back-to-back and used the same yeast with the classic American Pilsner, and so that was kind of when we tried to see, there's similar flavors in this. Is this a yeast thing that I'm tasting that I don't like? Is there something off? What's the deal with it?
Okay, so just in general, I think you can help them out with that, guys, right?
Sure.
Should be able to.
Yeah. All right, Brian, what do you think? Start off with you and your take on this beer.
Well, I think it's there's not a lot to hide behind in a beer like this. Bohemian Pils is just a very light beer with a fair amount of noble hops in it, and lagered. So if there's any flaws, they're going to stick out like a sore thumb here. I think the key to a beer like this would be using the classic Moravian malted barley, but the grain character in this one was pretty clean, kind of grainy, a little like kind of light cracker like, almost a little not that the malt should be intensely characterful, but it should have that kind of check malt kind of base malt kind of thing, the Pils malt character, and it's a little kind of light and not bland or anything, but it's clean and pleasant. The hop, which I like to look for a little spicy Zaz hop in there, and kind of low spicy and floral hop in there, but it was a little subdued. And there's a hint of DMS, which is okay in a beer like this. The esters seem to be in check to me. It looks nice and clear. In the flavor, it's fairly. There was a fairly prominent bitterness, which it should have a fair amount of bitterness, but with the water that's used to brew this classically, it should be very, very low ion content water. And could I ask you guys what you did with your water? Or?
So we live in Davis, so we don't use Davis water. Yeah. We use all RO water that we purchase locally, and then I usually add stuff back to it based on any research and stuff I can do. I use Gordon Strong's book and other people to find out. So this was just all RO water, and then I added 7 grams of calcium chloride. And I think that was something I found on a forum or something like that when someone was suggesting what to add back to get some of the character you would look for. So
yeah. Sometimes building the water back can be one aspect, and you might miss, if you're just starting with pure RO water, you might, there's a lot of micronutrients and things in the water that are naturally present, where if you're not using at least, some real kind of filtered water, you might miss something that should be there. But,
sure.
You can try to dial in water perfectly based on what it should be in a book and still not quite get there. You don't have water analysis sheets probably, and know where it should land, but you're not probably knowing exactly where this water was. But yeah, it's I think I get kind of a little minerally thing in there too with that, and I think it's kind of combating with the bittering hop in there and coming across a little harsh, and the hop flavor is, I mean, not when I say harsh, I don't mean like annoying or really bad. It's just it kind of covers up some of the hop flavor that I want to come through a little more. But it's a cleanly brewed lager, really pleasant beer. What did you think about it, Lee?
It's a pretty decent beer. I'd kind of agree with a lot of what you said. Fairly decent malt character in here. No basic Pils malt kind of flavor. The hops, I thought for the bittering hops, I actually would almost have wanted a little bit more. We disagreed a bit on that. I thought I could use maybe a little more, but they were a little bit in the rough side. So I don't know if is that something with the hops or the flavor wasn't quite perfect on those, but it seemed leaves a little bit of a lingering rough hop flavor, but the bittering isn't there because it balances a little bit much to the sweet. And it could probably use a little bit more hop aroma in the nose, too. The ferment character was pretty good. I was debating where I was picking up a whisper of some kind of ester, but I'm not really sure I was. I was definitely getting a bit of diacetyl in here, which, I mean, for this style, it's okay to have a little bit. So, I mean, after all your discussions on getting rid of diacetyl, you've got the style here where it's okay to have a little bit for a lager. And it's probably, I would say it's within that range. Wouldn't hurt to get rid of it, but it's okay as it is. Wasn't sure if maybe there was a little bit of DMS in there. Again, it was kind of thresholdy for me. So it's a little bit hard to tell, really. The body on this is pretty nice. Had some nice creaminess to it. The head looked very nice when you poured it, but it went away kind of fast. So it doesn't linger very long. I was curious, how did you guys do the mash on this?
So this was actually our first time ever doing decoction. We didn't, because this was our first time doing it, we didn't kind of dive in right at the beginning with this. We did our standard single infusion.
Mm-hmm.
I think Jamil says a shoot for 154. We do have just a cooler that we do our mash in. I think we hit about 153, so we're kind of in the range we were looking for. But then we mashed for an hour, and then I think right at the hour we pulled off like 3.2 gallons, did a decoction just to bring it to a mash out. Because I know reading about the style, I knew you're supposed to do a decoction, but because we had never done a full one before, I wasn't confident we'd be able to do steps and other stuff, so we just used it to mash out. So
why 3.2 gallons? Why not 3.1?
Well, because no, and that was
that calculated?
That was Beersmith, a wonderful sponsor of other programs. So that was the calculated amount to raise it up from 153, 154 up to 170. So that was why it was 3.2.
How'd that work out? Pretty good.
I think it worked out pretty well. I don't think we got quite up to 170. Probably got up to 168. But
yeah,
that's
pretty
probably
close.
Okay. Was this like a thick part of the mash or thin part?
I'm trying to remember. I think it was the thinner part of the mash. If I remember correctly, because they said for this part they said you don't want to do it too much over the top, and so I'm pretty sure at that point in time I was just kind of scooping right off the top of the cooler.
Right.
They didn't really want to disturb everything.
Right,
too
that's
much,
good because you don't want to boil up the grains and release some starch granules that aren't there and put them back in while you're mashing out, or the starch is going to be there forever.
Yeah, and that was the thing. There's 3.2 gallons and it was boiling it, so that's why I wanted it thin. I didn't want to sit there and stoke that stuff too much.
Yeah, no, decoctions are great in these beers. They can really bring out the malt flavor a lot more than you would otherwise, given that it's such a basic, simple malt profile in these things. It really can help the flavor a lot.
Well, I figure it was low risk just trying to hit a mash out because we don't normally do a mash out with our process, and so this was one. Okay. We'd miss it, whatever,
Okay.
But it was at least to try the process.
You also managed to keep it nice and light, too. I mean, you could, get a little color, get some Maillard reactions going on in there and darken it a bit, but it's still this nice light straw color, kind of medium straw and, delicate white head. So, yeah.
Pete, what, see? I did it. I keep doing it now.
Yeah.
I'm not supposed to do it.
I'll let it go.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Actually, yeah, like you're saying, the bitterness was, I thought, kind of harsh at first. Of course, just walking straight into it, not really even knowing what the style was.
It's also first beer of the night, too, which can be kind of, the first beer is always the hardest to judge, I think.
And when we say kind of harsh, it's really not that harsh at all. There's just a little edge of it, though. And like Brian said, there's just so nowhere to hide in this kind of beer.
Yeah, but that was the first thing that I picked up. And then, but underneath that, it was really clean malt. And thinking back to some of the times I've judged one of the judges mentioned a mineral flavor that he always got when he was tasting lagers, and it's really light. I get more the gypsum that you used, but nothing else. So maybe that might help build in some body to bring that maltiness through. It's just just a little thought.
Was it gypsum or was it calcium chloride? Sorry, I forgot.
Calcium chloride.
Calcium chloride. Yeah, 7 grams of calcium chloride.
Now that can accent the sweetness a little bit too. And Lee was picking up some kind of sweetness in the malt. I'm getting that kind of sweetness accented. So
yeah, I definitely get that as well.
And I do get that little bit of diacetyl, but it's really not offensive at all.
I also feel just a slight warmth in the chest, like not
warming.
like alcohol warmth, but like maybe a touch of light solvent going on. But
what's the top end on the alcohol in this style?
It goes up to 5.5.
Yeah, I think we're slightly out. Where efficiency, as we're kind of honing our process, I think our efficiency is climbing up a little bit higher. We usually, in Beersmith, I usually plug it in 70, 72%. I think we hit about 75, 76. So we were about 6 points high on our original gravity and fermented down to where we were supposed to. I think maybe at 1 point below with that slightly lower mash temperature. So I think our alcohol was probably at just over 6. So, and not that you're going to be picking up alcohol character from that, but I think this is probably slightly out of style potentially. So
pills and a half.
Yeah.
God, you guys are all over the technical side of this. I mean, actually, is this the first time you've done a decoction?
Yeah. This was our very first decoction.
No, I mean for like a first time doing a decoction beer with for a pilsner with this yeast and doing lagering. I mean that's a few times lagering. I guess this is pretty good actually. It's a good start.
Now, don't you break down the proteins when you are using a non-Movarian malt?
It would
and that would cause your head to drop.
It might. It didn't sound like you guys did a protein rest on this at all.
No.
And did you? What kind of malt? What malt vendor do you use, or what kind of malt?
I have down here. I think it's Breeze, but
Breeze. So it's not the Moravian stuff.
No,
so
I
you wouldn't need a
definitely-
headrest on this in particular. If you
Yeah.
ever get that stuff, Wireman does sell an undermodified Pils malt or partially undermodified. You probably would want to do a decoction with a headrest on that.
Yeah, no, we're almost always strictly single infusion. So
Right.
All right. Wow. You guys, I was thinking that too when you guys were talking about your process. It's like, damn, these guys know what they're doing.
Yeah, I was surprised.
They have everything kind of
what I sent you.
Everything-
That sheet. we're both engineers, so we kind of take things a little bit too far. See that?
Oh, well, now I'm not so impressed.
Yeah.
Figured you guys were just really into beer, but now it turns out you're just big nerds all around.
Exactly.
Engineers make great beer, yeah.
Yeah. So JP, how you can tell them to fix their beer?
I'm going to ask Brian. No. So what can we tell these guys how to kind of fix their beer?
It doesn't really need a lot of fixing.
It doesn't, right? It's pretty much there. But you were talking, Lee. I think you said you pointed out they didn't do a protein rest. Would that be something that they can do? And if so, what would that?
No, I'm not using what you did. I mean, since you're not using undermodified malt, and since the head was probably a little bit on the low retention side, I would not do a protein rest for this.
At least
if you want to go and get the undermodified malt and try it there, that might be worth doing someday. But I wouldn't add it into this beer. Mostly, I don't know. I mean, maybe you look at your hop to malt balance a bit, your bittering rates, quality of the hops.
We'll just stick that back on Jamil, though.
Yeah,
because that's what it is.
I would.
You can blame him.
That's what I would do.
He's a big guy. He can take it.
It's a fresh bag of hops, so it's got to be his fault.
Yeah, and if the diacetyl bothers you, I mean, it's probably okay for this style of beer, but if it bothers you, maybe add a few more degrees or another day or two to a diacetyl rest at the end of your ferment.
Well, I guess that's what concerns me, because that was
Make
our
sure
problem.
the yeast is roused and in solution when you do it.
Yeah, I was like super paranoid about it on this one, because this was our first time doing it after we had our issues with the darker ones, and so I paid specific attention to it. And again, we had done 50 degrees for 5 days. I started bumping it up over the next couple days, 52, 55, and then 8 days. One of the things I had read on the research I was doing was that when you have about a Plato to go until you reach your final gravity, that's when you want to start ramping up more aggressively. And so I took a gravity sample, and we were at about 10-17. I think we were supposed to go down to 14, 15. And so that's when I started bumping up to 62, and then 68. I think at 9 days, and held it at 68 for 2 days before just slowly start cooling it. And so that's the process I was hoping that would get rid of any diacetyl. And so we obviously still have it in it, and it's acceptable for this style. But my concern would be if I took that same process and went back and did our Bach, that I would probably never do again because that experience was so horrible.
Sounds like everyone loved it, man. What
I
are you
know, but
complaining
at the
about?
same time, we hated it.
That's
Yeah.
a challenge. Make it better. Actually, you might get better results there. Because the other thing to keep in mind is this strain of yeast. Did you use the Czech Pils yeast?
No, we used this one's the Pilsner Urquell, and obviously on the other ones we didn't use that.
Yeah,
So,
this yeast just pumps out diacetyl.
Okay.
It's going to be harder to get rid of. It
Okay.
makes more of it.
So maybe if I did that same regime with the yeast that we used,
you
on the
might
Bach,
not have
we
a
might
problem
not.
with a
Okay.
different yeast. Yeah.
So it sounds like a lot of it is kind of just recipe and not so much fermentation, just to clean up the diacetyl a little bit. But even if they didn't do that and kind of
Little of both.
tweak the recipe out, you
Yeah.
think you'd knock a home run out of this one?
Yeah, they've got the process down, and I think the diacetyl rest, as you described it, sounds like you're doing the right thing. I'm not getting a lot of diacetyl in this beer. The other, there was a little DMS, but it seems like the yeast cleaned up what it needed to clean up fairly well. The main thing I would say is I would personally look at the water and look at the malt that you're using, and find a Czech Pils malt, find a Moravian malted barley, and just start there. It's amazing what you can do with the right malts in a German beer using the real German Pils malt, and Munich malt instead of like an American Munich malt. It's so much different, and
You can't just use 2-row for everything.
No, I mean,
No?
yeah. You can start out doing it that way and get close, but if you really want to fine tune and get to the essence of that beer, you need to really pay attention to the ingredients even more than you already are. So, maybe bring the same thing, trying to hit your gravity right on this time. Now that you're dialing in your efficiency and know where you're hitting a little better, try to do that, and maybe switch up the water a little bit. And try a blend of filtered water with a bunch of distilled water or RO. So, without messing with too many salt additions, maybe it just needs to be pretty low in ions overall to make a good Czech Pils.
One thing I wanted to know is how did you guys get that so clear? I mean, this is brilliantly clear.
Refrigeration.
Really, no.
Once we switched from extract to all grain, we stopped fining. I used to use gelatin in our extract beers, and the second we switched to kegging, I bought a kegerator, and Michael built one out of a freezer. All we do is throw the kegs in the fridge and let them sit. We don't rack to secondary, do any of that kind of BS. It's just time and temperature.
It's a pretty beer.
Lagering will do that.
Yeah.
Now, if you shake the keg, then
that's a different story.
Yeah, that's a different story. So they probably don't travel well, but
How long did you lager?
we're at about 8 weeks now. I mean, and Jamil's, he said to do it for 4 weeks, so I tapped it probably out 4 weeks and tried it. But now, again, I was looking at it yesterday, and I think this week would be 8 weeks. So.
Yeah.
Oh, cool.
It might continue to smooth out a little more as
Sure.
it's going.
Every time I try it, it changes a little bit. Again, I thought I was picking up diacetyl, but again, my palate is still in training, and so some of the sweetness you're talking about from other things, maybe what I'm tasting actually, it's not necessarily diacetyl. I think maybe I'm just overly paranoid, and so I'm attributing it to a diacetyl because that's what I got out of our other beers, and so there's less than it really is. So.
Right. Did you do also the full 90-minute kind of boil on this?
Yeah,
thing?
this was the 90-minute boil.
Okay, that should have gotten rid of any DMS, and we were wondering if we're getting a little bit in there, but that really should get.
Yeah, it was a
get rid of
90-minute
that,
boil,
too.
and then I was looking at my notes, and we whirlpooled after the boil for like 20 minutes, which I wasn't sure why we would have done. We had a 0-minute addition. We'd often whirlpool if we have a 0-minute addition doing a pale ale or something like that,
right,
to get that kind of extra contribution. My only thought was we forgot to start the pump at 15 minutes like we normally do, and so we ran it a little longer to sanitize the pump or something like that. And then we chilled down to 58 and 30 minutes, and so I would have thought all that would have been correct. And we don't boil with the lid on or anything like that. So.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, the whirlpool's going to do something to the hop flavor, so you can experiment with that too. Maybe start it right on time and just do your normal regimen at that time and see what happens. Yeah, but good beer.
Yeah, excellent
Very
beer,
good.
guys. Thanks. Do you guys have any questions for our fabulous panel of judges today?
I think I asked most of mine. Michael, do you have any additional
I'm
ones?
good.
No, you're good?
Okay.
All right. Cool, guys. Well, thanks for making the drive out, and thanks for bringing the beer. It was really good.
Yeah, I really appreciate the feedback. It kind of, gets rid of some of our, misconceived notions, I think, about diacetyl and other stuff, and gives us hope to continue doing the lagers and maybe go back and try that Bach.
I think you should.
One more time.
Yeah.
We might
Why
be
not?
back with
When are you going to brew that
Bring us some,
butterscotch
yes.
beer?
That was real good. Okay, Grandpa, that's fine. All right, well, we are up against a break, and when we come back, we're going to meet Christine and try her spiced American cream ale. It is Dr. Homebrew, back after this.
Hey, dude, you know what beer this is?
No, all the labels are falling off.
Yeah, or the ink is run.
Well, if it's a pale ale, you're good, but stay away from the quote-unquote Belgian.
Oh, man, this guy needs to get some grog tags.
Grog tags are reusable, write-on, wipe-off, commercial-grade bottle labels for your brew. The guys at Grog Tag are homebrewers. They wanted great-looking, sturdy labels for your bottles, buckets, carboys, kegs, and growlers. They also wanted a label that not only looks good, but can be easily removed and reapplied during bottling without that nasty glue residue being left behind. No residue, water-resistant, and ice chest approved. Grog tags stay on in water or an ice chest, and they stay legible. Visit grogtag.com to customize your label or coaster from dozens of different templates for free and see how awesome your bottles can look.
Ugh, it's that pseudo-Belgian.
Yeah, we're getting him some grog tags, dude.
Grog Tag. At least your beer will look good. grogtag.com. Now, back to the examination.
Welcome back. It's Dr. Homebrew. Dr. Homebrew. I like the sound of my own voice sometimes. In case you can't tell, that's why I have my own stupid radio show. We are back, and we're hanging out with our next guest, Christine. Christine, sign in, please.
Greetings.
Oh, there we go. And so you brought with us, or you brought for us, a spiced American cream ale. Tell me a little bit about this beer.
Yep, it's a cardamom cream ale. I wanted to make a nice, pale, summer, quaffable, drinkable beer, but I didn't want it to be boring.
Okay.
And for some reason, the phrase cardamom cream just kind of popped in my head, and I'm like, I'd been eating a lot of Indian food at the time, too, as well. So I think that was part of the inspiration.
Well, I'll tell you, a cardamom cream ale is definitely not a boring-sounding beer, that's for sure.
No.
That is very interesting. How long have you been homebrewing?
About 13 years, off and on.
Well, nice. Have you ever tackled anything like this before?
No, this is actually the first attempt I've made at coming up with my own original recipe. I've usually just used recipes I've found online or in books, going by, rote, and so this is my first attempt at breaking outside of that.
Nice. That's awesome. Extract or all grain?
I do both. This is an extract because I work a lot, and sometimes it's hard to find that whole day to devote to all grain.
Yeah.
Extract you can do after work at night.
That's true.
Batch.
Yeah, a couple 3-4 hours. Couple 3 hours. You're done. All right, guys, let's jump into this beer. Peter, what do you think? Start off with Peter.
Cream ale is a very interesting style because it's not really, I guess, it is defined, but it's kind of loose. Sort of like a blonde ale, to me, it had a really interesting aroma. It had the spice. It definitely, to me, it had like a little wintergreen, rosemary, but and that was pleasant. But then when I got into the flavor, I've done cardamom beers, and I don't like it. Only because in this one, it's pretty intense. If it was maybe a little bit lower, that'd be great. It had a really low maltiness, which was acceptable. It was really clean, and other than that, nice body to it. Good.
In your beer, you totally overdid it, right?
I really overdid it. Yeah, and it took a long time for it to. Actually, I don't think it ever got better.
Plus, it took you a long time to eat Indian food again. For that matter.
Yeah, I don't eat Indian food. That's why.
See, that's my point.
Yeah.
Lee, what do you think?
It's all about the cardamom, that's for sure. I think the base beer is pretty good. The cream ale, it's light. It's got a little bit of a nice frothy head on it, and it is not bitter too much, which is kind of what you want with cream ale. After that, it becomes sort of a matter of philosophy. If you like a specialty spice beer like this to just knock you over with spice, well, this is doing it, yes. It's not like, I don't find it unpleasant myself. Actually, I'm kind of liking it, but it's probably too strong. I don't know that I'd order a second pint, but I get through one. typically when people are doing designs or ideas on how to make a beer like this, they'll tell you try and balance the specialty ingredient with the base beer so that they come out complementing each other, maybe about even, or maybe one displaying something a little more. It depends on the style of beer. You're doing a chocolate porter, you want the chocolate to come through, but it's not going to be all about the chocolate. For a spice beer like this, it's a tough balancing act because a lot of spices can be very pungent in small quantities, and you're boiling them up in a kettle with some beer wort, and they can get over the top pretty easily. I've had like clove beers that were just not really very good. But it's a very complex, interesting spice. And for me, I think even at this intensity, it's actually kind of nice. Again, I don't know that I want 5 gallons of it, but it's really interesting beer, and I'm kind of enjoying it for what it is. So I think it's decent stuff. But you might want to consider the question of balance. And that's maybe the question I would have for you on this is, how did you decide how much cardamom to put in and how to handle it?
I basically put in 1 ounce, figuring that would be as little as I would want to go. Because I was looking at it, I'm like, that's not really a lot. I don't really know. Maybe I should use some more.
Did you use the whole pods?
The whole pods, yeah. I put them at the end of the boil.
Okay.
Yep. The 1 ounce is based on like how it looked in your hand. That's about right.
Much, yeah.
There's probably some sort of research out there. Some people online who've done this you could check up with. Or probably the best thing to do is calibrate this to your palate. How do you like the cardamom flavor in here? Is it what you wanted? Is it too much? Is it too little? And adjust that 1 ounce to that.
When I first opened the first bottle, it was too much. I was like, I don't know. And then the more I drank it, the more I was like, oh no, this is okay. And now I think it's because it's been in bottle for like maybe 3 months now. The spices mellowed a bit. So I think right about now is kind of where I like it personally.
Mm-hmm. So it's mellowing out, and you're growing into it.
Yeah,
becoming a member of the family.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. Cardamom family. Right. Have you cooked with cardamom before?
I have.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Because that might be a good if you are not used to a spice using it in other things, using it in beer, you're probably going to overdo it.
Right.
But I really enjoy the beer too. I think, like Lee said, it is refreshing and it is quite enjoyable.
Thank you.
I do get a lot of the wintergreen and kind of the rosemary notes on it as well. Yeah. Right. Mr. Cooper.
Hey. Yeah, definitely the spice is very upfront on this one. It's I'm having a little more difficulty picking through to the base style on it. And when I think of cream ale, I think of the best way it was ever explained to me is kind of like an ale version of Budweiser. Which I was chatting with Kevin Pratt one day, and he just that just cleared up that beer for me because you can read the guidelines. Well, it probably says that too, but anyway, yeah, it's I expected something a little lighter, a little clearer, and a little more refreshing with the spice balance. And my personal judging approach would be kind of as Lee was starting to say, looking for that the base style and the spice to be kind of in balance with each other. And I feel like the spice is just walloping it, and it might be continuing to mellow out. But the one thing I liked too in the aroma though was there's kind of a nice little apricot fruity ester in there that's with the cardamom is kind of cool. It's got the kind of spicy sweet thing going on with it, and it's got kind of a sweet finish. We got kind of a hazy golden color, and I'm not sure if that's coming from the spice. It's a little on the dark side for the style, but that's fine. It's you could find ways to clear it up, crash chill it or see what happens there. But it's I felt like I was getting some other phenolics in there too, like maybe even a little kind of clove-like or slight medicinal in there, but finish is sweet, kind of phenolic spiciness in the aftertaste. It's getting a little bit of astringency in the mouthfeel from the spice, and it's hard not to do that when we go with such a heavily spiced beer. You get a little bit of that kind of like chewing on grape skins thing in your mouth from the spice, and but I liked it. It's a pretty good beer. It almost the base style. You could call it almost anything, anything kind of lighter. It's not extremely hoppy, so you couldn't call it an American Pale, but a blonde ale or a cream ale or something light like that. And it's, the base style is kind of just supporting that that spice is just hiding underneath it a bit. So, but yeah, I was glad you told us how you added the spice, because you might experiment with different ways to do that. That would be the kind of the feedback.
How else would you do that?
Well, adding it at the end of the boil is better than boiling it for an hour and a half or something.
Right.
You're going to extract a lot harsher, more astringency and harsher flavors with that. You know, the delicate spices out there will just be driven off, some of the aromatics that you want to keep in there. You could add it in secondary and, you know, start light and just wait till it gets to the right point that you want it. You know, brew that cream ale over and over and over until you get that classic, you know, ale version of Budweiser, that taste and clarity and everything, and then add the spice in secondary and experiment with it, you know, till you get it just right. And maybe even have some more of the base beer on hand in case you go a little, you know, it goes overboard fast with just an ounce even. So yeah.
Sure, and then blend back, right?
Blend it back, yeah.
Make some spice and some unspice and find your ratio that way.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's really a question of balance doing a spice beer like this. I mean, I kind of like it. You obviously like it. Honestly, I think if you put it into a competition, since it's really heavily balanced to the spice, you probably wouldn't do too well. Because a lot of judges in a comp would really be looking for getting a nice even balance in a beer where the spicy character and some of the woody or phenolics that Brian was talking about aren't kind of riding over the beer too much. And I mean, it comes out pretty nice in this, but it's not. It's balanced really heavily to the spice.
Okay.
So I don't know. It depends what you want. If you like it like this, just make it again, and it's fine because you're going to drink it and you'll be happy. That's the cool thing. But if you want to try monkeying with it some, do a little research on how people have handled cardamom. Think about short additions at the end of the boil, things like that, to try and decrease the amount of the woody characters you get out. Most of the brown spices are kind of like that. If you boil them too much, they get a little harsh.
Mm-hmm.
You could also make a tincture and, you know, add it to some neutral vodka, and then go to, you know, blending with you know, different amounts of the beer until you get, you know, with an eyedropper full, and then scale it up to the full batch size with the exact amount that you think is appropriate with the beer.
That's a great idea. It seems like a lot of people have been doing that lately.
Yeah.
Past couple of years, it seems like the hot thing to do now.
Tinctures are cool,
and you sound cool when you say it, I think.
I used a tincture.
Yeah. Oh, I'm doing a tincture. Oh my God, you must really be, you know, you must really know what you're doing. Well, you know, I have my various tinctures. So we're all in agreement. I think the issue is just there's too much spice.
Yes.
Is that what's going on? Is it hard to find the base beer underneath that and to get into the subtleties of that?
Parts of it.
Yeah.
I would say so, but yeah.
What are
it's
the
a
base
very
hops?
light beer style, so spice is going to dominate it easily.
What are the hops you use?
Tettnang and Saz.
Cool. Oh, okay.
You could try it with another malty beer style, like a double or something, you know, something else. Do a Belgian style with the cardamom and see what happens, or, you know. But yeah, cool idea.
Yeah, I think you're almost there for sure.
Thanks.
Maybe cut it down, but yeah. Do you have any questions for the panel here?
Clarity. What can I do about that? I think I used a Whirlflock tablet in this batch, but I don't know what else can be done for making really crystal clear beers.
And are you bottling?
I'm bottling. Yeah.
And if you haven't transported it 30 miles from your house to get here, is it still hazy? I mean, it's not just that the sediment has risen up.
It'd probably be a little bit clearer at my house.
But it's still hazy.
Still a little bit hazy.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, you can fine it with gelatin or biofine or something like that,
Gelatin,
depending what you like. Biofine is pretty decent stuff. Gelatin, it depends on what the nature of the haze is, but different ones, those will work. Or you can just put it through a mechanical filter. But for that, you need to have a keg and some CO2 to push it through that, usually.
And even using biofine and gelatin, I mean, she's not going to be able to bottle condition that way yet?
You'd have to do that in the fermenter.
Have to do it in the fermenter? And then how do you bottle condition after that?
You'd have to spike in some fresh yeast.
Oh, okay.
You don't want to do that once you're carbonated. So, yeah, I mean, in secondary, you just let it sit in secondary at, you know, lager temperatures for a while and let it clear naturally that way, too. That's what our previous guests did with their beer, and it was pretty nice and clear. So they didn't use anything extra. I don't know if they even used Whirlflock or anything.
Right. And it's possible, seeing as you boiled the cardamom for the full boil, it's possible.
No, I put it in the end.
Oh, at the end. Okay.
Yeah.
It's possible you might be getting something out of that, some more phenols that are exacerbating the haze a bit. It's hard to say, really.
Yeah.
I don't know that much about brewing with cardamom.
Yeah, it could be like some polyphenols combining with some tannins and proteins combining in there. So
yeah, I'm kind of speculating here. Is how big a batch did you do?
5 gallons.
5 gallons. Well, a Whirl Flock should have done it.
Yeah, easily.
Yeah.
Yeah, those are for 15 gallons, I think.
Yeah. Interesting. Some other findings later, or filter it.
Yep.
All right. Anything else for the guys, Christine?
I think that's it.
Perfect. Cool.
Thank you very much for your feedback.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah, thanks for coming in. That was awesome. Well, I'll tell you what we're going to do, guys. We're going to take our very last break of the night, and then we're going to come back on and just do a quick little recap and get out of here. What do you think?
Cool.
All right.
Okie doke.
Stay tuned, everybody. See you on the other side.
Hey guys, it's Push. June 26th, Wednesday, is the Brewing Network 8th anniversary party. And I'm supposed to try to get you guys to show up and buy some tickets. And basically, if you don't come, you're kind of an idiot. If you're going to be at NHC, get yourself a ticket, because this is sponsored by Northern Brewer and Midwest Homebrewing Supplies, and it's going to be huge. Justin may be a freaking moron, but he knows how to throw a party. So show up. It's the 8th annual Brewing Network anniversary party. I can't believe we've been doing this for 8 years. But listen, it would mean a lot to me. If you go get yourself a couple tickets, show up, and I'd love to meet you, shake your hand. We'll have a couple beers together and have a good time. It's going to be a blast. You never know what can happen. Last time I ended up with a freaking hop grenade tattooed to one of my legs. So get your tickets today. Go to the brewingnetworkphilly.eventbrite.com and hook yourself up, and I'll see you there in Philly. Cheers, brothers and sisters. Was that awkward? Anyway, it'll be a lot of fun. See you there.
Dr. Homebrew, please report to the ER for code blue. Dr. Homebrew to the ER, please. Oh, and your tea time has been moved to 2:30.
Now back to Dr. Homebrew.
All right, thanks for sticking with us, everybody. This is the final break in the Dr. Homebrew show, the brand new show, the hit show, the runaway steam train meteor combined. If you had a train on a meteor and then you shot it around the sun and then had it come back around, it would be this show. Just not as devastating, I imagine, or hard to put together.
Oh, totally is devastating, JP. It's all you, too.
Devastating. I'm going to devastate it. Anyway, this is our wrap-up segment where we just kind of go through the beers that we tried and just give a little recap and hopefully we can glean a little bit of homebrew information. So the first one we had was from Nick. It was a Pilsner. Bo Pils, right? Bohemian Pilsner?
Yep.
What did we think of that? I remember it was very clean beer, but some of the notes were used kind of more the classic German ingredients, especially the malt bill.
The Moravian, the Czech Pils malt, yeah. Would be nice to have a little the same beer with the real malt in there. I like in like English beers with floor malted barley. It's such a difference than if you're using something an American version of a Pils malt or something. It'll get you there, but it's the real deal makes a big difference. But yeah, it was pleasantly brewed. They did a great job with this beer and just some fine tuning things we talked about. Maybe backing off the bitterness a touch, or it might have been something to do with the whirlpool that we were talking about. But yeah. Good beer.
What about the hops? I know that was a kind of a point of contention. Could they make those hops pop a little bit more?
Maybe a little more in the aroma, maybe a little more in the flavor. Not so sure about that. The bittering, I think we're having a few discussions about maybe a little less. Maybe they were a little bit harsh there, which might have been hop quality, or it might have been a mineral addition. Maybe a little too much calcium, causing them to pop out too much. Hard to say. The magnitude of the bittering I thought was okay. Maybe could have used a touch more, but they were a little bit rough around the edge. Although all over it was pretty well done beer actually. It's sort of a series of little fine tunings needed to make this to be really standout beer.
Yeah, I agree.
Totally.
I agree. Well, that's the point of the show. I hope, and I hope the guys got that out of there. And then Christine with her spiced American cream ale. That was pretty much unanimously just the spice, right?
Just spice.
Yeah,
it's all about the spice. It was a pretty nice spice, but it wasn't what I would call a balanced spice beer. It was pretty much a cream ale setting for a lot of cardamom, and it's a pleasant enough flavor and aroma. I like it, but it's not a balanced beer, really.
I agree. Brian, I'm sure you agree too.
Knock knock. Who's there? Cardamom. Good stuff. Yeah, good. An interesting choice of spice to use with a beer like this. It like she said, it has a nice ring to it. I made a cardamom cream ale.
It kind of does roll off the tongue real nicely. But no fermentation flaws, no kind of nastiness, right? It was all pretty straight across the board.
Pretty clean beer. Could use a little fine tuning on the clarity, but other than that, it was it's very smooth and drinkable from what I can detect to the base style under the spice there. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice.
Yeah, excellent. All right. Well, what do you say we get out of here?
All right.
Okay.
I'm sure we have other beers to judge. Anyway, this has been Dr. Homebrew. Once again, thanks very much to our sponsor, 5 Star Chemicals and Supplies. You can get everything you need to improve your beer, clean everything, make everything really, really nice at 5starchemicals.com. Check them out. Also, check out your local homebrew supply store because everybody has PBW and Star San and 5.2. And if they don't, you should really go to another homebrew shop because they probably are still waiting on their shipment of extract. Anyway, this has been Dr. Homebrew. See you guys next time.